This is part 4, the collar. Today's tutorial video is a 5-part series. We're working on the Bernat Easygoing Knit Pullover. This is a needle knit pattern by yarnspirations.com. This is part 4 of our 5-part series. Welcome to GoodKnit Kisses. We're all about helping you stitch your love and love your stitches. I know I am ready to start finishing this sweater up. Are you? We're going to be making the collar here today and sewing up the shoulders as well. So let's begin by looking at our pattern. I'm going to flip over to the second page and go right in on the part that says finishing. And the very first thing we do, it says collar, sew right shoulder seam. Okay, that's it. It's not really explaining much more, so I'm going to show you in detail how to do it because you actually have a stair-stepped type of shoulder seam. And then the next part here goes on to picking up stitches, so we don't want to do that yet. Let's go ahead and go over to our panels. Let's begin by putting our 2 panels on top of each other. You want to make sure your front is on top with the right side up, and then your back panel is facing down with the right side down. So just as if you were going to wear this, line up the rib stitches here, and then you can just kind of fold this or roll it to get the top part closer to you, okay? So you see that I've got my right shoulder over here. This is on the left side of my screen for the right-handed knitting video, and the left-handed video, again, remember, just follow what I'm doing on the screen. The words may be reversed for you because I'm just mirroring this video. So you can see that my shoulder seam has this special stair step to it, and when we sew this together, we need to make sure to sew it up right so that you don't get a jagged look. It'll have a nice straight seam on it. It doesn't look like it will be, but I promise you that with this technique, you will be able to do that. And then the back also has that. So let's do that now. Now, if you had left a nice long tail when you finished off this back, okay, it was actually the right side over here. You have a nice long tail. So when you finish that off, you have the yarn that you need to begin sewing this seam together. And if you don't, just go ahead and attach some yarn in this first stitch. All right, I've come back in here, and what you didn't see is I worked it with my Roving yarn and it broke on me. So let's go ahead and just work with a different yarn. If you switched from the Roving yarn to something else, you can continue using your tail, but this way you'll see it with a contrasting color here, and it'll work just fine for mine. You're going to go to the front panel, and we're going to go through the outermost stitch, okay? Just grab the whole thing. This is the only time you're grabbing one stitch. And then leave a tail. You can hold on to it in the back for stability. Okay, go to the back panel. We're going to be holding both of these at the same time. Okay, now looking at the back here, you can see my bind off stitches, and then the last bind off stitch attaches to this column here. It goes right back here. And then this next stitch is actually attached to the one that's on the cable needle. So we're going to go to the first one at the bind off, go through both stitches, that little V there, and go all the way through, pulling our yarn. Make sure don't pull your tail out, okay? And then you can leave it a little loose for now. Then we're going to go down to our front panel, and let's look where the yarn came out. So we had the yarn out here. We're going to go into the very next stitch over. It's actually the first full stitch, so 2 V's, or 1 V here, two legs of that V, right below the bind off. Go underneath both of them and pull all the way through. Okay, and then go to the back panel and go under this column here. It's kind of hiding underneath that knit one below, but it is a column right next to it. Go through those, okay? And then we're going to go down again to the very next stitch along that bind off, go through both of them underneath, and go up and repeat. So I think you have the idea. We're just alternating from the front to the back panel, just the very first stitch along that bind off, and continue. Keep going. Pause your video as you need. So I'm a few stitches from the end where my stair step is. You can see that I have a couple of columns left. I've actually got this column here and this one before the stair step on this side, and this column here and this one before the stair step over here. If you're working your needle this way, of course, you're going to follow these instructions, but I need you to look at it from if you had started on the shorter part and you worked this way, okay? Because the same principle is going to happen. We're going to stair step to get here. We don't want to go straight away or at an angle. So let's stop and look over here at this bind off section, and the first column is this one. And so if we were working in this direction, we would make our next stitch line up on that longer part. So we want to go here, and then in order to stair step, we're going to go to this spot next instead of this spot. Okay, it's a little harder because I have the knit one below, but we can sort of go underneath it like this. Okay, so then I need to figure out which one is over here. So looking at this one, the last bind off on this row is here, on this column I mean, and then go over one more, and it's going to be this stitch. Okay, so my stair step when I come down here is going to be, so let's see, one over will be this, but we're going to go down one, so it's actually going to be here. So we're going one stitch down from where we normally would. Okay, I don't know why I can't get in there. I think that's my tail woven in somewhere. Okay, so this is one stitch down where I normally would go. I'm going to go ahead and pull it on through, and then go here, and we're going to go one stitch up from where we would go, which is going to be right here underneath these two purl bumps. Okay, make sure I'm going right in between. Okay, now we're coming back to here, and we want to go to that one that measures up over here. So this would be our stitch on this column, so we want to go right over to this next stitch and go in there, and then come up top. This would be the column over here, so we want to do this stitch next to it and go up. So we're just stair stepping, and then now we can come down and start working on this part. So that's that first stitch. Remember, they're lined up with columns, and then we're going to this next one. And now it's easier. You can see, sorry, I got a little flex in the yarn that I chose. And then we're going to come and do this next one, and it's just the same as you did before. If you had a project that had more stair steps to it, then you would just continue in that way. Okay, so keep going until you are out of these column stitches. Okay, on the end, and I'm going to go ahead and pull through this last one and put my tail to the back. And then now we're going to pull on our two tails tight. Okay, so you can see all my stitches are nice and straight. My seam is straight. It doesn't have a stair step look to it, and we're ready to move on with the next step. All right, now that we have sewn our right shoulder seam, with the right facing or right side facing, pick up and knit 12 stitches down the left front neck edge. Okay, so we are just going to be working the same amount of stitches no matter what size you have, and then we're going to be picking up stitches that were on our front stitch holder. Now it has 15 or 17 depending upon how many stitches you had on your holder for your size, but it's irrelevant. It should be correct already. And then you're going to pick up and knit 12 stitches from the other side of your neck edge, and that's actually the neck edge that you have already worked with your shoulder seam. So let's go over here and work this together. So I've used one of these little stitch markers. You don't have to have one. They're like a little claw edge with a little pokey part that sticks in the stitch, and you can find it easier. So what I do is I use that to kind of measure the middle stitch, and then I mark it, and then I know how I can put them on evenly. So I need 6 stitches on this side of the marker and 6 stitches on this side. Now I do want to point out, because I changed up the pattern, I have this V stitch here, this little column of V stitches. We're actually going to go into the middle of the stitch and then to the side of the stitch. But if you did not make a change and you're still kind of reflects this pattern right here with the knit one below here where it pops out like this, okay, then you're just going to go into these 2 side stitches. Okay, so mine's going to have a little bit extra on the back, but otherwise, if you didn't do that, then this little line stripe would be on the outside of your neck, and you would notice that line. So, all right, let's grab our yarn. We're going to put a tail on the back and hold on to it. Get our needles. And we're going to go into this corner stitch right here, okay, in the very corner, and pick up a stitch. Okay, I want to get that first one in there. Yarn over, hold on to your tail, and the first one's a little harder to get. There we go. Okay, so we've got that 1 stitch in here. Now we want to get 5 more before this marker, and you can kind of count the stitches or the holes in between and see where it's even. I know that it's going to be kind of every other hole here, so I'm going to pick up here between this V and this side, this stitch here. Yarn over, pick that up, and then go down here, pick up another one. Let's see. That's 3. I'm splitting the yarn here. Make sure you're going through that whole stitch. There we go. And 4, 5. Okay, I'm going to take that marker off. And 6. Okay, and skip down here and continue picking up until you have 12 stitches. Pause your video as you need. Make sure you're not grabbing between stitches here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Getting close. And 11. And now 12, which is really close to this one coming down here. Okay. So double check, we've got 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then now we need to knit what's on our stitch holder. Mine is facing the wrong way, so I'm just going to go to the other side of my cable and get my needle, and then just put them on this needle and work those. So I'm going to pause the video. When I come back, I'll be finished knitting these stitches and we'll pick up on the other side. See you in a moment. Okay, so I've got all my stitches on here, and now I need to pick up. I went ahead and marked this one here just by folding it in half, and you can see where the stitches are knit, where I picked up from the stitch holder, and this one has that nice edge along here. So we're going to mirror that on this side by picking up more stitches. I'm going to go right below here to this very first one so they're close enough together. That's 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5. I'll do this one a 6. And so on. Pause your video, and when you finish picking up the stitches, meet me back up. See you soon. All right, so you have picked up all of your stitches. Double check your stitch count to make sure that you have the 12 and the 15 or 17 and the 12 here again, because we want to make sure our stitch count is accurate by the time we get to finishing all the rest of these stitches. The next part, we're going to be working half of these stitches in knit and then increasing in the middle part. So you're going to be working either 13 or 15 and then the very center stitch using a knit front back. Okay, so let's look at the pattern so you can see that. You worked all these stitches here, knit up to the finishing that to the 12 stitches, and then we're knitting the remainder, which is knit 27 or 29 from the back stitch holder, increase 1 stitch at the center. So you're going to be counting 13 for these or 15 for these so that you can increase right in the middle, and then you'll end up with these remaining stitches here, either 67 or 71. I'm confident you can do that on your own. Be sure and increase in the middle, and then I will meet you back at this point here. So work those, pause your video, and I'll see you soon. All right, so you have finished working on that right side, picking up everything. Now we're going to turn it on the other side, on the wrong side, for our purl row. So just go ahead and purl this across, and we're just working in a flat panel. Go ahead and work those, pause your video, and I will see you on the other end. See you soon. All right, so you have finished your purl row. Let's move on to the pattern. And the pattern says you're going to purl, which we just did, beginning on a first row. Work texture pattern is given for the back until collar measures approximately 7.5 inches or 19 centimeters. And you're going to end on a second row of the pattern. That's that special patterned row with a knit 1 below. So you're working the 4-row pattern repeat until you reach 7.5 inches. That's all sizes, ending on a second row, and then you're going to bind off or cast off knitwise loosely when you're on the right side. And then you're going to sew up the left shoulder and collar seam. So you're going to be sewing up this part here. You're going to have the working yarn is going to be at the top after your 7.5 inches, and then you're going to sew up this edge to the other side. Okay, so the other side of your collar over here, you'll be sewing those two together, and then you'll be sewing up these seams here. So you'll be doing the same thing we did before. You'll be working the stair-stepped bind off here. So pause your video, I'll meet you back up and show you how to actually sew up that collar. We'll see you soon. All right, we have our neck or collar, also called a cowl. We worked that until we got 7.5 inches and done a loose bind off. And if you've woven in all your tails, I'm going to say, I'm so sorry. I should have said leave a little tail at the top, because when we connect this, you're going to want the same color of yarn up top if you're using a different one for seaming it up. So I had already done that, so I'm actually going to have to add in an extra piece at the top. So I'll show you how to do that. But first, we're going to seam it up. And I've already got my yarn set aside. I've cut a length which is about 3 times this length here. I just kind of measured it out with my my yarn here and just went 1, 2, 3, and then I added enough for a tail at both ends to be woven in nicely. So that's where it stands right now. And we're going to begin at the shoulder. This is the left shoulder. You can see my stitch markers still marking the front of the sweater. Okay, so you remember that we started on the long side of the stair-stepped shoulder bind off. We're going to start on the shorter side of it, and then we're going to work our way all the way up to the top. So it's all in one piece, but we're going to do a different technique here than we do here. Okay, so we're going to put these together, and you can also do it from this side outward. That's fine too. You could pull your yarn about halfway through and work this way out. That's fine. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start by connecting our yarn. I'm going to grab the outermost stitch here, pull through until we get a little tail, or at least a size you can hold on to. Okay, and now we're looking again at the right sides of both. Okay, we're going through this first column of stitches right here, not this column, but this one here. Just go through both of those stitches, pull through, and then come back down to the front and go through that next column here which is going to be this one. Okay, this is the one that has that knit one below. Pull it all the way through. And remember, we're just one stitch away from the bind off. The bind off will be hidden. And now come over here, and now we're on the knit one below column right here. Okay, come down to the front. Okay, go through those 2 stitches and keep going. Pause your video as needed, and meet me back when you have gone the last stitch over here on this one. Okay, so last stitch at the stair step. See you in a moment. So I've come all the way down where it starts doing this stair step, and on the short side we want to go 1 over in the same row that we're working on to the next column over that has a couple of stitches down further. So I'm just following this one. If it's hard to see, just go down below at 1 and then go over and then go down again. So it's actually just lined up exactly with this row that we've been working on. So we're doing that on the long side of the stair step. Then come up to the top and do the same. So you can follow this stitch up and go over and come back down here, so you know that's the same row. I find that easier to find them especially once my yarn has been pulled tighter. Okay, so if you pulled it too tight, now you're going to come back to the front side here and find the next row over and then go down just 1 stitch. We're not quite to the bind off yet. Pull that on through. Come up again to the top. We're going to go to this column here, and this one would be, this one's a little harder to see. Let's flip that around. Okay, so we want to work with this column, and you can actually just go down to the very bottom and see that first stitch and then go 1 stitch up from there, and that's easier to find. Okay, and then now we can come down again and go to the very first stitch by the bind off, and you're going to continue as you did in the beginning, just going across all those stitches. So go ahead and pause your video as you need, and meet me back up when you're done with these stitches down at the corner. See you in a moment. Okay, I'm down at the end, and it looks like I have one more column over here, but I don't have one here. I'm just going to go into this side of this stitch here, this end here, and go through that one more time, and go through this one, and that'll reinforce that corner. Okay, and now let's go ahead and pull this tight. Just gonna head and pull on your working strand and the other side. You can see it kind of zippering up. There we go. So you can see that seam did rather nicely right there, and all of these columns are lined up nicely. Okay, so now we want to turn and start working this direction. Okay, so we've already got our point where it's coming out. It's ready to seam up with this side over here, and you're going to see that these line up, these bumps here. Okay, so I've anchored in this side. I'm going to come over to where I can see my yarn coming out at this point. I'm going to go in between this column and this row. So this is a column here, and this is a row here. And I'm going to go ahead and go up between this bump here that's in between the column and the row, and come back over to this side over here and go down to where that yarn was coming from, and go in between and put my needle down and pick up the stitch that's in between this selvage or side edge here and this column here. And it's quite a gap right here, but I'm going to go ahead and just pull up in this stitch here, because that's the bar in between. So we have 2 columns, and then we have the bar that connects them in between. So pull up there, Go ahead and pull that tight. Come back over to the side and go through here and find the bar and pick it up. And come back over right where that yarn had come down, okay? Just put our needle down here, don't split any yarn. And sometimes it's hard to see, just dip it down in and then flip it up and you can pull up that bar. It just kind of magically pops on there, okay? I like to go ahead and just make this tight here because it's already connected, so I want to make sure that it's nice and snug before I begin. Let's come back over to the side and go through and find the next stitch bar in between, and it's going to be this bump here, and then over to this other side and pick up, and it's that bump here. So these are going to line up. These rows are going to line up where that bump is coming out. And now come to the other side here, and you're going to have the couple of rows of stockinette, and you're going to go right in there. So one row up from here, put it down and pull up. You see that? So be sure and come where the yarn is coming from and just put your needle in and pull up so you don't miss a row. Come back over here, put your needle in where that yarn came in, and I'm going to pull up, and there's that bar. And once you've got a few of these going, it's much easier to see and kind of feel where you need to be putting your needle. And now I'm all the way back up to this next part where there's a bar between. Be sure and don't pick up the purl bump here. You want to pick up this one right here. And coming back over here, and you can see that bump very clearly. Make sure you're not splitting the stitch. Okay, so you should be able to see how you're clearly going through those. Let me pull on this and show you what it looks like. And you can see what my seam looks like. Now, due to the way the pattern is, it's not giving us an extra column row here, but I think it's just fine, and it provides a nice secure seam. So keep going. Make sure that you're not grabbing any of the sweater down below it when you're stitching this through. If you have, then you just back off by taking your yarn out of your needle and pull this aside if you grab the wrong part, and just pull it out. So kind of pull out these stitches like that, and you can begin again wherever it works. So if you come off of the wrong line, it's okay. Again, just kind of pull it apart, pull out that stitch. Okay? All right, so go ahead and keep going. Pause your video. I will meet you at the other end, and we'll finish this off together. See you soon. The seam is finished along here, and I want to make sure and get all the slack out of this extra thread that I'm using, or yarn that I'm using, to sew it in. And then make sure that you kind of pull on your cowl here, this cowl collar, to make sure that it's not kind of squished down like if you had pulled on it too hard or something. And now, it should be said, if you don't want to sew this up and have it kind of opened up and splayed out, or have some toggles to kind of close it, you can absolutely do that. That's up to you. I'm just following what the pattern has written. So I want to get my yarn all the way to the back, make sure and close up this very top part of the stitches, but I'm leaving the part from the bind off unattached, because I'm going to attach that in just a moment. So I'm just going to put my yarn all the way to the back here. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and sew in weave in this tail here. So let's just pick a spot, go all the way through. And I'm going to go through a couple of these purl bumps here, picking my way along the seam. I already have the bulk of the seam. I don't want to make it too much more bulky, but I can kind of zigzag through this seam here on the other side of it. So if my seam is down below here, I can put it right up above it and work in my extra tail. And then I like to go back through, working my needle in, and we can bury this tail. Again, making sure it's nice and stretched out, there's nothing puckering, and then clip it. So that tail is now woven in there. And then we want to get out our original yarn to close this off. So I've got about a 15-inch tail or so, or cutting. Thread my needle. And now we want to go through the top part where we have our V-shaped stitches. Okay, so you're just going to put it through one stitch and then the next stitch, pick up two, pull that through and leave a tail. And then you can go make a figure eight, go across and go around here to the other side where you've got the other part of the V. So we're making figure eight, we're going this way and then around and through. Pull that tail through and then go back through this part that you went out before. Get that tail. And then I like to go through one more time this part that we went through before. And then it finishes off that little bump there, and then you can just go back through to the other side and weave in your tail. Okay, and then I just kind of weave it into this little seam since it's already there and bulky. And then you can do the same with this one. Weave it on through, or you can go to this part here where that stitch is, where we've done our duplicate method before. There we go. So I'm going to go up through that kind of smile and frown or umbrella area. Go around, following that. Okay, so once you got it in, worked it in really well there, you want to trim that and do the next one, and then you'll be done. So the next time you'll see me, we'll be working and putting in our sleeves. We'll be setting those in and sewing up the sides and the sides of the sleeves. Well, join me next time for part 5 when we finish up our easygoing knit pullover. See you soon. Thanks for joining us today, where we help you stitch your love and love your stitches. See you again soon.